There's a Time cover story. This is written up in Pathos, a Time cover story by Joe Klein, and it's all about how it's talking about volunteering and helping people kind of around the Oklahoma tornadoes, right? And the story starts out okay. It talks about how volunteering is good and doing service projects helps the effects of post-traumatic stress and all that stuff. It all sounds good. But then the article goes on to talk about how doing these projects can help veterans in a lot of ways, including providing them with health and psychological benefits, a sense of purpose, so on and so forth. That's all fine. But as part of his reporting, Joe Klein joined one of the disaster relief groups that was working at a location that was damaged by the Oklahoma tornadoes, and then he wrote the following. There was an occupying army of relief workers led by local first responders, exhausted but still humping it a week after the storm, church groups from all over the country. Funny how you don't see organized groups of secular humanists giving out hot meals. It's kind of a cheap shot. It's kind of a cheap shot at atheists. It's a cheap shot at secular humanists or agnostics or anyone who doesn't belong to a particular church the way Joe Klein believes. I would assume Joe Klein is probably Jewish, right? Do we know that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure so a synagogue would fall under that too. It's really a cheap shot, and the reality is it's not even true. I mean, first of all, we had this big story around the Oklahoma tornadoes where Doug Stanhope and Emory and a couple other people got together and actually raised a ton of money for that atheist woman who was interviewed by Wolf Blitzer, and he said, "You got to thank God you're alive." And she said, "Well, I'm actually an atheist." Raised a ton of money, and you know what? More money than she needed was raised, and she said, "I don't need this money. I'm going to donate the extra back to other people." That's like the big story. But let's look at some of the numbers. More than the Foundation Beyond Belief, which is a non-religious organization, raised over $45,000 for Operation USA and the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. Atheists Giving Aid raised $18,000 that would go to local relief groups in Moore, Oklahoma. Members of the Free Oklahoma Atheist Group helped families who needed to move wreckage out. There's a long list of this stuff. Now, maybe Joe Klein didn't know this was going on because those groups don't have tax-exempt status like a lot of those churches, and then they can't buy T-shirts, for example, like a lot of the church groups have. So you see them and oh yeah, that's the church group. Yeah, they get the tax-exempt status, but a lot of these other groups don't. They're just clubs. They don't get that status. So they're actually just donating money and doing the work instead of doing T-shirts, for example. Maybe he didn't notice them because of that.
Yeah, and there's also the whole aspect of the religious organizations, groups, and people shoving it in your face,
right?
Acting so proud of what they've done and doing it more for those reasons than for actually helping people.
The other note, by the way, I think that there is an inherent discrimination that's allowed when talking about non-religious groups, because let me flip this around. If Joe Klein wrote an article and he said, people were out there, Muslims were out there, they were helping out, blah, 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 blah. Funny how you don't see organized groups of Jews giving out hot meals. There would be hell to pay, and rightly so, because I'm sure that it would be factually false, but also why is this the focus of your Time article? There should be an uproar now also, because this is the same type of discrimination. Just because you don't believe in a particular, you don't subscribe to a particular faith.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's kind of some gray area with regard to atheists, because atheists, I mean, don't really belong to anything, whereas Jews, well, that's pretty specific.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing what's taking place, and I'm glad that Pathos wrote this up and we were able to talk about it. On today's bonus show, great bonus show today, we'll talk about a memory prosthetic that can be installed in your brain to help with memory and a bunch of other stuff. DavidPakman.com/membership. Get the bonus show. We'll be back after this. Stay with us.
The David Pakman Show at DavidPakman.com.